Step number two is one of the most complicated ones. It tends to be the one that gets most primary caregivers down, which is get the help you want when you need it. I mean, even once you get to the point, when I first started in the caregiving role, people did sometimes ask, how can I help? You know, you get this general question, what can I do? I was so overwhelmed in the beginning and thought I could handle it all. I didn't even know what to say. I'm an only child, and Alva's an only child, right? Who's here with us this evening. Some folks come from larger families, and I've worked with primary caregivers who have multiple siblings. And what I often find happens in those situations is there's a primary caregiver who steps into the role. They have their way of doing things. They're very involved, okay? And when they ask for help from other family members, those other family members don't necessarily step up to the plate in the way they would like. So they get caught up in this feeling that they're not getting help when they need it. So let's talk about this in a little more detail, because can be a lot of disappointment and frustration. Like I said, Alva, you and I are only children, and that's a blessing and a curse. Okay, the blessing is, the curse is we're initially on our own unless we create a caregiving support team, which is what I did to get some other help, and I organized those supports. But the blessing is you don't have other family members to argue with if you're caring for an elder parent, because you're really the only one. You can become the primary decision maker. So, but what I have found in families that are larger is not everybody tends to be on the same page. And this is really, really understandable. And it's so important. So how can you overcome this disappointment? Well, one of the things that I find, and this is true for any caregiver, take some time, and I've done this with those that I coach with, to try to help them organize their activities. Make a list of everything that you do. You don't have to create it all at once. Kind of brainstorm a list. Perhaps take a few days. And, of all the activities that you do, not just in your caregiving situation, but everything you do to manage your household and other household support needs, just make them at large. Direct caregiving responsibilities and sort of ancillary things. Categorize it like a menu, meaning put them into categories. Which of those tasks that you do you do on a daily basis? Which do you do on a weekly basis? What do you do on a monthly basis? And what did you do on an as-needed basis? You can then organize it, do this all on, pen and paper, organize in a way that has a whole list of activities. And, but again, start initially over a few days, just brainstorming, just add things to the list as you think of it. And even once you come up with what you think is a final one, it's not like you can't add to it going forward. But here's the key. When people ask you if they want to help you, because I found many people that are associated with like a church or spiritual organizations or others often like to provide support in spiritual organizations or friends, families, other volunteer organizations. And they often, you don't know what to have them do. But if you are able to share your menu of tasks and let people choose an item that they could help with, they're more likely to love doing that because they feel they're skilled at it. They have the time to do it, and they'll sign up to do it. You'll get the help, something off your task list handled, and that'll start the ball rolling with doing more. I find this works great with other family members, especially siblings and families, because if the primary caregiver would take time to make a list, what ends up happening, and I'm actually going to come back on camera to hammer this point home a bit again. What I found from my experience in working with caregivers who have multiple family members who can contribute is when they have something they want somebody else to do, they tend to direct it. So they tend to call a brother or sister and say, Mom has this appointment, can you take her? And then the person, for whatever reason, may not be available, may be busy, who knows what the reason is, says no. Okay, it might not be that task. So again, the primary caregiver said, oh my goodness, every time I ask to do something, I get this no. They never step up to the plate, and this causes disharmony, disagreement. Well, perhaps you've asked somebody to do something they either don't have time for, they don't feel skilled to do. What I have found is that if you take time to share a list with family members or even post it online, and I'm going to give you an online resource to be able to do that in a little while, and you share it with others, people even your family members that maybe don't typically contribute would be willing to step up to the plate and take something they're willing to do. And I guarantee you, once they do something once and you feel good about it and you chime in very positively, reinforcing them for stepping up to the plate, it becomes contagious that they may want to do something else. Because the bottom line with all of this, there are no shoulds. We tend to sit in the shoulds of, I'm doing all these things and my brother, sister, whoever else should be doing these things too. Well, you know what? There are no shoulds in life. We are all only responsible for ourselves. At the bottom line with all this, we're only responsible for ourselves. Again, when you're stepping up to the plate to serve, you're making a choice. If you want to encourage other people to help and be part of your caregiving support team and part of this success plan, make a list and let them self-select what they want to do. That has been the biggest strategy. I found this to work with a number of families. I even had it work in a situation where two siblings didn't even talk for a decade, but actually restored a relationship from using this process of involving choice. You know what choice does? Everybody loves to have choice. We don't like to be told what to do. Whether we're 3 years old, we're 30 years old, or we're 70 years old, we don't like to be told what to do. When we give somebody a choice to let them self-select what they want to do, it makes a world of difference. So I encourage you to try that strategy and see how it works for you.
Practical caregiving resources are waiting for you at caregivingwithoutregret.com.